So last week, Disney Plus released several movies from the Marvel universe, as well as a concert by the awesome rock band Queen, and they did it in IMAX Enhanced dtsX. It was a big announcement, and a lot of people were very thrilled about it, but a lot of people got disappointed very quickly because they found out that their AV receiver or their television, the app on their television or their streaming player does not handle IMAX Enhanced dtsX. It might handle IMAX Enhanced, but not necessarily the dtsX version of that. They may even handle dtsX, but it's not the IMAX Enhanced dtsX. So there's a lot of these companies, I don't know if they're necessarily scrambling, but a lot of these companies are having to address this issue and get it figured out. What I did was I contacted Onkyo Integra just because they weren't on the list, and I wanted to see what's going on, and they gave me a great email to let me know what's going on. So let me read that real quick to you. It's not very long, so let me just read it. It says, in order to be able to use or have access to the newest features, functions, such as the dtsX in the Onkyo unit, or in order for it to be able to function properly, the units would need to be updated to its latest firmware version, and once the receivers are on its newest firmware, then the system will be able to automatically support or detect the IMAX sound mode when the IMAX content is being played. As for the newest firmware update version availability for the newer Onkyo models, the last and latest firmware has been released, posted in the Onkyo site as of April 2024. So I think there might be a possibility that is an update which is going to support the IMAX Enhanced dtsX. I don't know for certain, actually, because I don't have a source unit that does that yet. So I'm going to have to bring in a source unit and figure that out for certain. But let me talk about what's great about these, and then we're going to show you how to do a real quick update and make sure that you get the latest updates on your Onkyo or your Integra. So let me address this first. The great thing that we have with these AV receivers now is firmware updates. That is something that doesn't necessarily make it future proof, but it certainly makes your AV receiver more future ready. And so that's a nice thing. It was something that they called several years ago that usually it was a port, a USB port. So you take a USB drive and you just put it in there. And it was called a field programmable gate array, FPGA. We don't really necessarily call it that anymore because you don't really have to go into that. The older AV receivers, I think they still basically recommend that you download that on a USB stick and then stick the USB stick into the back of the receiver and do your update that way. Newer receivers that have network capability, the newer models, so like in Integra, you'd have like a 2.1 was an older version. You might still want to use the USB with that. The 2.4, both of those are network receivers, but the 2.4, it does it pretty quickly, and it does it about the same speed. So especially if you have slow internet, you may want to use the USB anyway, just because your computer is going to download that firmware update a little bit faster, and it'd probably be a little bit more worth your while on that. But we'll take a moment here and we'll talk through how to do that. But the nice thing is, again, you don't have to go out and buy a new AV receiver just because the latest technology is out there. If you have an AV receiver that already has dtsX capability on it, and you got firmware updates, and you got IMAX Enhanced running through all this stuff, let's face it, they're not going to want to be left out. So all these companies are going to make sure that they get their firmware updated and get this stuff taken care of. So don't get into a big panic and try to go out and buy an AV receiver. You might have to wait a little bit, but it's worth hanging on to a great AV receiver. If it's working well, go with it and enjoy it. So don't waste your money trying to go out and buy a new AV receiver. If you want to drop some change on your home theater, the AV receiver update, unless you're unless you're increasing some channels and some capabilities, probably not going to be worth doing that from the AV receiver standpoint. There might be some other upgrades that would make your theater experience just a little bit better. That said, a great AV receiver does make a big improvement over a not so great AV receiver, but not just because it has a spec called dtsX. Hope that's fair enough. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about how to get into the firmware updates and take care of that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just take a quick look here at the Onkyo Integra remote. You'll notice there's the enter button there in the center, and the enter button is surrounded by your basically arrow keys that are going to allow you to go up and down, left and right. And to the bottom left of that, you'll see a little gear button, and that's going to be the button that's going to get us into all of our settings. And when we first open that up, it'll show us the setup menu, and it will have input, output, assign, typically highlighted when you first open that up. We're just going to scroll right on down here to where it says miscellaneous. And after miscellaneous, we'll select that, and it'll jump over to where it says tuner. And then we simply need to scroll down until we get to firmware update. Select the firmware update, just hit the enter key, and that'll show us the update notice. You'll notice it says disable up there at the top. I didn't do this when I was going through the first time, but disable, what I would do is I would typically enable that so that you know when the next updated version is going to come out and you can stay up to date. So if the dtsX for IMAX Enhanced, which is dtsX Profile 2, is not available on this current firmware version, you know that when that does come out, you're going to have the opportunity to get that update going. So from here, we're just going to scroll down until we hit update via net. Now, if you are using a USB stick, the USB will already be highlighted. To do that, you're going to have to go to the Onkyo Integra site and download that version from the site onto a USB drive, which comes in a zipped file, and then you're going to have to unzip that file, and then you get to load that USB stick in there. Now, I do want you to note that when you do that, you need to have a USB stick that is cleared of all other data. It should not have anything else on it, because the Onkyo will get confused. So you're going to hit that update button for via net, and it's going to go immediately to another screen. Tells you a little bit about what's going on. You hit the update, and then the screen's probably going to go blank. From that point, it's going to take, it says here up to 30 minutes. I think this one took maybe about 12 when I did it, and I had pretty slow internet doing that. But you can just follow the progress on the AV receiver's screen. It won't be on the television screen, but the AV receiver will show you the progress. So you can see 31, 32. You can see it up there at 88. And then eventually you'll see this one that says completed. At completed, you need to turn off the AV receiver, but you don't do that with the remote. Do not use your remote to do that. You need to use the power button that is on the unit itself. Once you hit that, it will power down on its own, go into standby, and then it will probably power itself back up again. And at that point, your AV receiver is updated. So if you guys have any more questions about how to deal with the AV receiver updates, be sure to just give me a call. Vassal High End is here in the 4 states to help you maximize your home theater and your home audio experience, and we want to help you and serve you in any way that we can.